What if I told you that eco-performance is the future of culture and that Florida is the state of the future? Innovative, climate-centered performing arts are prime tools to fostering resilience to climate challenges that we face here in Florida and all around the globe. Now, I define eco-performance as any live arts event by artists that are concerned with ecology, climate change, and environmental justice. And I contend that these artists provide valuable cultural contributions to the climate movement and credible creative research in their topic area, all with powerful social influence. I'm a Florida-based artist, I'm a global culture worker, and I am a card-carrying tree hugger who believes that ecological and artistic polyculture are the keys to thriving societies everywhere. Okay. I've also worked at the intersection of climate action and performing arts for the last 15 years. I have lived and traveled in 20 different countries on 5 continents. I have lived in Brazil and Spain, and I've called Florida my home for the last 30 years. And I also moonlight as a vigilante mermaid, but more about that in a second. Now, in my travels, I have heard artists express their challenges and their priorities. And overwhelmingly, their work increasingly focuses on climate-related stories. In my own artist practice and throughout my experiences traveling, it has been demonstrated that artists do not lack a willingness to engage with climate-related issues. Now, most people that I meet, they either care about the environment and climate change, or they care about arts and culture. And even if they care about both things, they don't often see how collaboration between the disciplines can have really exciting and powerful impacts. And as somebody who's worked at the intersection of climate action and performing arts, this connection is super exciting to me. You see, climate cuts across all social classes and nationalities. The global climate crisis is an unmatched opportunity for us to have transnational and cross-cultural collaboration. Now, arts and artists can break through language, political, and cultural barriers like few other disciplines. And they're perfectly poised, actually, to build local coalitions and also global climate cooperation. And I have seen this in action. Now, Siren Jones, my alter ego, is a mermaid, and she speaks from the absurd perspective of an extinct species to tell us about the dangers of ocean warming, plastics pollution, and imminent biodiversity loss. Now, originally she was created to motivate audiences to care for Florida as a vital and sustainable bioregion. And for the last decade, she has been advocating for the non-human in arts conferences and festivals and in schools and on a lot of beaches. And I think that even with such morose topics as microplastics and red tide, she's pretty unwilling to abandon humor. And she often engages with audiences by rolling around in beach trash, or she'll collect aluminum cans to make a little extra cash. She'll teach PSL lessons, which is plastics as a second language. And she will sell her tears as a cure-all for eco-anxiety. She often laments that she doesn't understand why it's so hard to find her prince. But when I first started creating a character that could tell stories about the plastics industry or ocean acidification, I didn't know anything about the science. But artists have singular creative obsessions. So I just read a lot of chemistry, and I interviewed a ton of researchers and joined a bunch of beach cleanups. And it turns out that artists that are concerned with climate often immerse themselves in their subject matter, science, and it's part of their creative research. They become amazing advocates for climate issues without necessarily being trained in the hard sciences. And This is really one of their superpowers. I mean, they absorb and reinterpret climate problems and phenomena metaphorically, and then they turn it into something much more accessible and universal than some data-dense article in an academic journal. And I give thanks to all the academics out there. And what I really want to bridge is this gap between the arts and sciences, which really aren't that different. Now, if you're like Siren Jones and I, and you live on the Gulf Coast, you're no stranger probably to some of climate change's most recent stressors. Now, Floridians are not strangers to hurricanes, but the recent increase in extreme weather events, the flooding, the unsettling changes in the insurance industry have made the most hardy of us stiffen, right?
Right.
Well, I don't know about you, but our quality of life, our survival, and the ability of the place that we love to support us is at risk. So as an artist citizen, I also care about living in a culturally vibrant society because the arts are a hallmark of a healthy imagination, of being open to new ideas, and of the freedom of expression. Decades of studies now show that societies that invest in the cultural arts prepare their citizens to be more open to new ideas, prone to inspiration, and to have stronger problem-solving skills. Students that are exposed to arts and arts education perform better academically, period, even if they don't go on to pursue professional careers in these arts. And at a time when we are facing unprecedented existential threats from climate change, we need inspiration and problem solving more than ever. We live in a place that's called the Culture Coast. It's a place that literally depends on the vitality of the cultural arts and the health of the natural environment. Yet both of these things are imperiled. And in spite of the fact that decades of studies now show that the arts are a marker of vitality and progress for societies, we are still chronically culturally underfunded. We only fund our arts in the United States per capita at $6.83. This is 300% less than other vital sectors such as health, education, and the military. And I contend that all of these things are necessary, but we should strive for greater parity in the essential, especially when we know of their great benefits. Organizations such as Americans for the Arts have published studies that show that tax revenues from the creative industries are in the billions of dollars annually, and they create millions of jobs nationally, including here in Florida. And this is happening at a time when arts budgets in Florida are all but disappearing, when we need their creative and healing powers the most. Now, I am somebody that has grown up in the arts, and I may talk like I'm just another crazy artist, but I want you to consider the seriousness of not only the pretty tangible impacts that I've pointed out, but also the intangible and ephemeral nature of the theater arts. Now, I know that arts are kind of suspect in non-arts problem-solving circles, I get that. And it's not like we're calling theater artists as first responders when catastrophes occur. However, in the aftermath of many natural disasters or health crises and in war zones, we've seen that arts practice have helped societies recover over time. They allow us to mourn, question, articulate agency, and elaborate small and large-scale problems as we reconfigure our communities. Now, the truth is that arts and theater have been employed in cultural change and all sorts of peace and reconciliation efforts for centuries, so why wouldn't we use them now? Climate change, it's been analyzed through the different disciplinary metrics of atmospheric science, geology, economics, civil engineering, and evolutionary biology, among many other disciplines, and most recently, communications. And this diverse framing has allowed us to understand the multi-system impacts of this problem. And it's also been observed by many scientists and journalists that humanity is currently struggling with how to even think about this immense and complex problem. And that in and of itself is a crisis. So if theater's role throughout the century has been to expand the imaginative capacities of human societies to understand ongoing existential threats and the unknown, why wouldn't we use it now to deal with our challenges with resilience and to understand the vast potential of a sustainable future? So I'm not only asking you to appreciate and support artists in their creative endeavors, but I'm also asking you to consider how important it is to include artists and their work in spaces where innovative policy and systems change is being designed and implemented. And I can give you an example of where sometimes we miss the mark on this. So a few years back, I was invited to submit a proposal to participate in a global think tank's annual conference that was being held in Miami. And they had selected the theme for that year to be climate change, and they wanted local artists interested in climate to participate in the program. And because they had high-level dignitaries, statespersons, and lots of executives involved, they really required a heightened level of security. And it was determined that all of the artistic programming had to happen outside of the conference hall. And the result was that all the performances happened in between sessions or after hours. And listen, I am delighted that artists were able to participate and represent the community. But if professionally produced, intelligent, and challenging eco-performance cannot be considered primary content for an innovative climate change conference, it feels to me like maybe the industry-anointed problem solvers and thought leaders have missed the potency and the impact of this art form. Now, insisting on the relevance of arts and eco-performance when dealing with our current climate emergency may sound pretty unreasonable, I know, even audacious. And you're probably saying to yourself, but wait, don't we really need scientists and industry leaders in government to fix this? And the answer is a resounding yes, we absolutely do. But I am asking you to consider eco-performance and the artists that make it a vital component of problem-solving labor that has value, it has impact, and it has authority. Too often, the arts are the entertainment and service of other disciplines, or the marketing strategies that we use to sell things, or perhaps the window dressing at cocktail parties that happen after all the serious conversations have already been done. Now, the arts are a great way to get our minds off things and to celebrate, but they've also always been in the business of psycho-emotional triage. The arts help us to understand complex histories, are problematic now, and to figure out and imagine a future that doesn't even exist yet. And the arts, they can perform a magic trick that artist Mark Bamuthi Joseph has called manufacturing empathy. And this is something that we're going to need more than ever in days to come. So a theater project that deals tragically or comically with climate change, it doesn't necessarily provide us with an immediate fix or more accurate information, no. But what it does do is it provides us with an opportunity for collective recognition. It perhaps allows us the relief of a good laugh or the acknowledgement of a difficult loss, or to grasp onto the thread of inspiration that what we're experiencing we're not going through alone. And I've got to tell you that in my experience as an artist, I've had the privilege of working inside this empathy factory for a long time, and I know of the potency and realness of its power. I would like you to consider that artists concerned with ecology and climate resilience can provide powerful cultural impacts and research to communities. I would like you to consider them as essential workers that make our societies healthier, more empathetic, and more resilient. I would ask you to support arts and culture whenever you can, and not only that, but to insist that funding for the arts grow in parity with other sectors. And if you are able, include artists in policy-making spaces, invite them to be on your board, invite them on committees, or ask them to be anywhere where climate-informed vision is needed. And of course, seek out some EcoPerformance events and take your family and your friends and your coworkers and your students. You know, Florida is a place of legends. And some of them are exotic, some tragic, some romantic, and some are downright ridiculous. But Florida is also a unique bioregion and a culturally plural place where a multitude of ecologies and peoples intersect. And some of them are indigenous and non-indigenous. And it's all right here at the gateway to the Americas. And while the rest of the country secretly laughs at us, but really wants to move here, we have had a front row seat for decades to the climate crisis. And this is hard. But it is my prediction that if we invest in making arts and climate action work together for bold sustainability solutions, we can be the model of resilience for the future and lead the way from Florida. Thank you.